Hi everyone, hope everyone is well. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have wrapped up their first week together on the campaign trail with a rally in Las Vegas on Saturday, their fifth one in 5 days. The tour has taken them from Pennsylvania to Michigan and Wisconsin, where they drew rally crowds of 15,000 and 12,000 accordingly. Then Arizona, where an estimated 15,000 people braved the 40-degree heat to attend the rally, and finally capped it off with the rally in Las Vegas, Nevada, where 12,000 people entered the arena in Las Vegas and police turned away 4,000 more as people in line have started getting sick from the heat. They've also been endorsed by a slate of unions, like the United Auto Workers Union and the Nevada Culinary Union, as well as the historically politically neutral League of United Latin American Citizens, the oldest Latino civil rights group, and the cherry on top, Pelosi even backed her $12 million in a fundraiser on Sunday in California. Things are decidedly looking good for the Harris-Walz campaign. There was a moment of discord during Kamala's speech in Arizona when she was interrupted by protesters chanting Free Palestine, and she responded with,
Everybody, hold on. Here's the thing. We are all in here together. I'm told an extraordinary number of folks who are here together because we love our country. We're here to fight for our democracy. Which includes respecting the voices that I think that we are hearing from. And let me just say this on topic of what I think I'm hearing over there. Let me just speak to that for a moment, and then I'm going to get back to the business at hand. So let me say, I have been clear. Now is the time to get a ceasefire deal and get the hostage deal done. Now is the time. And the president and I are working around the clock every day to get that ceasefire deal done and bring the hostages home. So I respect your voices, but we are here to now talk about this race in 2024.
This was markedly better than her response on Thursday in Detroit, the first time she got heckled by pro-Palestinian protesters, where she responded by accusing them of wanting to see Trump elected into office. This response, definitely better. She learns fast, which is good if she wants to get elected, but let's be real. Getting that ceasefire done requires you to out-muscle Bibi, since Bibi ain't doing that, cause Bibi can't do that without losing his government, and Bibi will not willingly break apart his coalition. So unless Kamala is serious about forcing Israel to a ceasefire, this talk is cheap. For now, those are my comments regarding Kamala and the issue of Israel. But let's move on. Polls. Well, I am very glad to report that the race is officially a fucking toss-up, with a bunch of battleground state polls coming out even showing Kamala slightly ahead in most of them, which is a phenomenal turnaround by Kamala Harris. On 5:30, and then we had a poll on 5:38, which in averages for swing states, where control of the White House rests, Harris led in Michigan by 2 points, Pennsylvania by 11 points, and Wisconsin by 1.8 points. Trump led in Arizona by less than half a point, and in Georgia by half a point. Then a major new poll by the New York Times and Siena College showed Harris leading Trump by 4 percentage points in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, 50% to 46% among almost 2,000 likely voters across the 3 states. There's even been a poll released showing Kamala ahead on the economy, people. Truly, the Harris-Walz campaign has had an incredible run this last week. So what has the other guy been doing?
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your being here. Just a statement before I talk about debates. I think that our country is right now in the most dangerous position it's ever been in from an economic standpoint, from a safety standpoint. Both gangs on the street and, frankly, gangs outside of our country in the form of other countries that are, frankly, very powerful. They're very powerful countries, and we don't know what we're doing. We have leadership that has no clue.
Gangs in the streets and lovers in the sheets, in the form of very powerful countries, very powerful.
Anyway, he called a press conference and went into unstable baby mode. We're not gonna go through it because I pity you a little bit. So let's just have a glimpse.
Say it.
Are you worried at all about the size of Harris's crowds?
Oh, give me a break. Listen, I had 107,000 people in New Jersey. You didn't report it. I'm so glad you asked. What did she have yesterday? 2,000 people? If I ever had 2,000 people, you'd say my campaign is finished. It's so dishonest, the press. And here's a great example. I had in Michigan recently 25,000 people, and 25,000 people we just couldn't get them in. We had in Harrisburg 25,000 people, and 20,000 people couldn't get in. We had so many. Nobody ever mentions that. When she gets 1,500 people, and I saw it yesterday on ABC, where they said, oh, the crowd was so big. I have 10 times, 20 times, 30 times the crowd size, and no, they never say the crowd was big. That's why I'm always saying, turn around the cameras. I'm so glad you asked that. I think it's so terrible when you say, well, she has 1,500 people, 1,000 people, and they talk about, oh, the enthusiasm. Let me tell you, we have the enthusiasm. The Republican Party, and me as a candidate, but the Republican Party has the enthusiasm because people want to see crime stopped. They want to see a country that's respected. Think of it. If I were president, you wouldn't have Russia and Ukraine, where it never happened, zero chance. You wouldn't have had October 7th of Israel. You wouldn't have the horrible withdrawal. And I don't mean the withdrawal, because the withdrawal was fine. I was ready to withdraw from Afghanistan, and we were going to do it with dignity and strength.
Dignity and strength. Russia-Ukraine? Never happened. Israel-Hamas? Never happened. Ancient Greece and Persia? Never happened. Climate change? Never changed. Don Jr.? Never happened.
Let's skip a bit while he verbally diarrheas his way back to the crowd sizes. Even at one point before he gets back to them, he even talks about the size of electric vehicle batteries. Truly a Da Vinci of the modern age. Unfortunately, he probably thinks Da Vinci is a gay club in Beverly Hills, but whatever.
But on crowd size, in history, for any country, nobody's had crowds like I have, and you know that. And when she gets 1,000 people and everybody starts jumping, you know that if I had 1,000 people would say, that's the end of his campaign. I have hundreds of thousands of people. In South Carolina, I had 88,000 people. In Alabama, I had 68,000 people. Nobody says about crowd size with me. But she has 1,000 people or 1,500 people, and they say, oh, the enthusiasm's back. No. The enthusiasm is with me and the Republican Party, because they want to stop crime, they want to stop people from pouring into our country from places unknown and from countries unknown, from countries that nobody ever heard of.
Wow, sure, Donald, sure. Nobody's ever heard of them before. Nobody. In short, Donald was very cranky and very mean. He literally attacked Kamala on everything. He's losing ground and he can feel it, which makes him extra grumpy.
Kamala is dumb and stupid, and Putin doesn't respect her.
The biggest crowd I've ever spoken to, and you've seen, Maggie, I was at the mall, I was at the Washington Monument, I was at the whole thing. I had crowds. I don't know who's ever had a bigger crowd than I have, but I had it many times. The biggest crowd I've ever spoken before was that day, and I'll tell you, it's very hard to find a picture of that crowd. You see the picture of a small number of people relatively going to the Capitol, but you never see the picture of the crowd. The biggest crowd I've ever spoken, I've spoken to the biggest crowds. Nobody's spoken to crowds bigger than me. If you look at Martin Luther King, when he...
Yeah, no, Donnie, we're not going to look at Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech and compare it to your right-wing comedy / hate speech / verbal diarrhea rallies. I'm sorry.
You know, he campaigned for their freedom, and I campaign to take away their freedom. We're the same.
He also accused Kamala with faking a crowd with AI. Sure, Donald, keep telling yourself that all the way to your loss in November. Anyway, enough about the Orange Man baby. What about his trusted VP, the Sofa King, J.D. Vance? Well, he went on the offensive, attacking Tim Walz for his military record. And we're talking about the 24-year military record. No, the Republicans have done the exact same thing before to John Kerry. Vance, in his characteristic good grace, called him a coward for not going to Iraq and instead becoming a congressman. First of all, the guy became a congressman. He didn't just skip the war, he became a congressman. Second of all, the guy was 41 years old, for fuck's sake. He wasn't 20 or something. And third, and most importantly, do you mean to tell me that Walz didn't actually participate in the senseless killing of hundreds of thousands of Iraqis on a war launched on lies and false premises? Wow, how will he ever recover from this one? Also, it's not like this fucking twat engaged in combat. He went to Iraq, but he went there as a military journalist, so perhaps settle down a bit, Commander Vance. Now, the reason Vance went all in on this was because of footage publicized by the Harris campaign, in which, discussing gun control reform, Walz says, "We can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at." Vance said he says he shouldn't allow weapons that are used in war to be on the American streets. Well, I wonder, Tim Walz, when were you ever in war? What was this weapon that you carried into war, given that you abandoned your unit right before they went to Iraq? He has not spent a day in a combat zone. What bothers me about Tim Walz is the stolen valor garbage. Do not pretend to be something that you're not. Now, this was a genuine misstep by Walz. Don't do it again. And of course, far be it from me to point out the sheer hypocrisy of Republicans when their leader is, lest we forget, Commander Bone Spurs, whose legendary truth stretches deserve an Olympic medal. So what's left? Oh, the debate on ABC News on the 10th of September is officially happening, which is great news. We'll find out further on if there will be any more debates, but this one is happening. And what else have we got? And the bro himself, Joe Brogan, has endorsed RFK Jr. because, and I quote, "he's the only one that makes sense to me." Well, dear Joe, that sounds like a you problem, and you should work on that. Now, before we go, I have some extremely serious news. Tensions in the Middle East have risen again following Israel's assassination of Hamas's political leader Ismail Haniyeh in Iran's capital Tehran, and the assassination of a top Hezbollah commander in Beirut, which themselves could be conceived as a response to a killing of a bunch of Israeli children by rocket fire in the occupied Golan Heights. Haniyeh was targeted by an airstrike while attending the inauguration of Iran's new president, a moderate named Masoud Pezeshkian. Needless to say, Iran has promised to retaliate, and that's where we find ourselves in, with Israel preparing for a likely retaliation attack by Iran within the week. Meanwhile, 40,000 Palestinians have been murdered, and most of Gaza has been reduced to rubble. The EU's foreign policy chief has called for sanctions, saying that the recent remarks by Itamar Ben-Gvir constitute incitement to war crimes, adding that sanctions must be on our EU agenda. In his own post on X and in media interviews, Ben-Gvir said that instead of agreeing to a potential ceasefire deal, Israel should block the entry of humanitarian aid and fuel to Gaza until Hamas releases all of the hostages, saying that doing so would bring the militant group to its knees. Ben-Gvir has also repeatedly called for Israel to permanently reoccupy Gaza, rebuild Jewish settlements there, and encourage the voluntary migration of Palestinians from the territory. Meanwhile, the Pentagon has stated that Secretary Austin reiterated the United States' commitment to take every possible step to defend Israel and noted the strengthening of U.S. military force posture and capabilities throughout the Middle East in light of escalating regional tensions, the statement added. So, if I can get back to Kamala's response in Arizona when she was heckled, geez, Kamala, just a heads up, and you can maybe tell that to old Jack as well. I'm sure that the great majority of voters would appreciate a ceasefire a heck of a lot more than a full-blown war in the Middle East. You know, just a heads up. Trust me on that. So with this ominous prospect ahead of us, I bid you farewell for now, folks. Elon's also going to be conducting an interview with Trump on Monday. Yes, I know how stupid that sounds. Anyway, see you soon, folks. Bye-bye.